Our top story this morning: continued divisions within the Conservative Party over the Islamist row, as Lee Anderson doubles down and refuses to apologise over his comments about Sadiq Khan last week. Last night he spoke exclusively with Patrick Christie's.
My inbox has exploded with support. I cannot keep up with my WhatsApp messages, my text messages, my Facebook messages, Instagram, whatever social media platform I'm on. The amount of support coming through is absolutely phenomenal. They're saying, Lee, please speak out for us. Don't back down. Don't apologise, because you're speaking for millions of people across the country.
However, the Prime Minister has criticised Mr Anderson's comments, as the Prime Minister claims that he is proof Britain is not racist.
The most important thing is that the words were wrong. They were ill-judged, they were unacceptable, and that's what I believe, and that's why the whip has been suspended. And I think everyone can see that tensions are already running high, and what I want to do, I think what the country wants to see, is the heat taken out of this debate, and I think that's the right thing to do.
Well, responding to Mr Anderson's comments from last week, this is what the London Mayor had to say.
It's been more than 2 days now since the senior Conservative made comments that were clearly racist, anti-Muslim and Islamophobic, and still no firm condemnation from the leader of the Conservative Party, the Prime Minister. The problem is you have a senior Conservative saying things that are clearly racist, anti-Muslim and Islamophobic. That's leading to an environment where anti-Muslim crime is spiralling, and what they're doing is pouring petrol on the flames of Islamophobia.
So Sadiq Khan, using that term clearly racist, and he used it twice there. Olivia Utley, how are you gauging this?
Well, it feels anything but clear this morning, to be honest. Everything is looking pretty murky. On one side of the Conservative Party, you have the Prime Minister, who suspended Lee Anderson from the party, but has fallen short of actually saying that what he said was Islamophobic. He said over and over again that it was unacceptable. He said that the Conservative Party has high standards, so it was right to remove the whip from Lee Anderson, but he doesn't want to use the word Islamophobic. And that's very important indeed, because those in the Labour Party, including Sadiq Khan, say, as you heard just there, that what Lee Anderson said was Islamophobic. So there's a bit of a row going on there, and about what the Conservative definition of Islamophobia actually is. But perhaps in a more problematic twist for Rishi Sunak, there are arguments from within the Conservative Party as well over whether Lee Anderson said was unacceptable at all. Suella Braverman, the former Home Secretary, has tweeted today suggesting that the reaction to Lee Anderson speaking those words, that the fact that he had the whip removed, was hysterical. And she says that what we need to do is tackle Islamist behaviour head on, something which she thinks we're essentially ignoring with this sort of semantic row over exactly what Islamophobia means. It's all getting pretty murky, pretty difficult, and it feels as though Rishi Sunak is going to be feeling the full force of this. Meanwhile, of course, we've got Lee Anderson not backing down at all. He said that what he said absolutely was not racist. Let's have a listen.
My comments weren't racist. These things aren't illegal. It's not illegal to criticise a religion at all in this country.
And of course, there is Reform just waiting in the sidelines. Reform UK are challenging the Conservative Party from the right, and this is gold dust to them. Any row over something like this is fuel to their fire. Richard Tice, the leader of Reform, has said that he would like to see Lee Anderson join. Well, for the moment, Anderson is saying he won't. But it might be a bit more complicated than that. Let's have a listen. Don't have the clip there.
Yeah.
But he is saying that he wouldn't rule out joining reform. So this is getting very, very difficult for the Prime Minister. And of course, let's not forget that this is all set against the backdrop of this very, very tricky by-election in Rochdale this Thursday.
Finding himself once again between that rock and a hard place, the Prime Minister there. Olivia, thank you.
Headline front of the Express today, and they're saying, get him back. Tories rally round race Roy Lee Anderson. We're asking you, watching and listening at home today, where do you stand on all of this? Are you any the wiser? Is it any clearer to you? Lee Anderson saying it's not racist and it's certainly not illegal, anything he's had to say. So somebody just sort of point out the racist bits and we'll discuss those today. Joining us now to discuss this further, Deputy Leader of Reform, Ben Habib. Ben, what do you make of this whole hoo-ha?
Well, I think it's a shame that the hoo-ha has developed the way it's developed, because what's happened here, Eamon, is that we've got distracted from the real debate, the real issue, which Lee mentioned in his interview with Patrick last night, and that is that Sadiq Khan and the Met have lost control of the streets of London. And instead of discussing the root causes of why we've got demonstrations on London, what the underlying issues are, why we've lost control of the streets of London, we're now caught in the weeds of a debate over what Islamophobia is. Indeed, I'd like to, if we're going to have a debate on semantics, I'd like to widen that to include the word Islamist. And we've got caught in this kind of identity politics, which is absolutely delightful for Sadiq, because he can wrap himself in the cloak of a minority being pilloried by Lee, making all the points that Sadiq Khan loves to make. He trades on identity politics. And sadly, what he's been given is fuel for his fire in this respect. What I think Lee needed to do was to stay away from words like Islamist, which none of us really know what the meaning of it is. You know, what is an Islamist? Is that an extreme Muslim, or is that just a general term applied to all Muslims? And so we get caught in those weeds in that debate. What Lee really needed to say was that Sadiq Khan trades on identity politics. He hasn't clamped down on these marches in London, that hate speech has taken place in these marches. It should have been controlled. And the other issue that I think sadly has been lost in this debate, which is critical and central, and for which the Conservative government is squarely responsible, is the propagation of diversity, equality and inclusion, the promotion of progressive ethnic minority rights, ethnic minority religious rights and so on, to the detriment, if necessary, of the majority white people in the United Kingdom. And it is DEI, a policy that is embedded in the regulatory and legal framework of institutions in the United Kingdom now, including the Met, which has been put there in large part by the Conservative government. Lee's criticisms of losing control of the streets of London, Lee's criticisms of the Met, should have been equally directed to his colleagues in government. And that's the shame of this, really, is that we're getting completely distracted down a cul-de-sac of identity politics, which is where Sadiq Khan is completely at home, and we're not hitting the real issues.
Yeah, the shame of it, but I mean, you could say that that is Lee Anderson's fault, that everybody is now having this debate, and we will be talking a great deal about policing and the issues around it, because there is a big report out today. But specifically to your point about how Sadiq Khan stands to gain from this, Reform stands to gain from this as well. Let's not pretend they won't. I mean, there's a strong chance, isn't there, that Richard Tice's overtures that have been put out there could be picked up by Lee Anderson. In fact, he's pretty much a de facto Reform MP now whilst he's suspended.
Well, let me just be clear on one thing. Reform UK is not seeking to recruit any Conservative MPs. Any Conservative MP wishing to join Reform needs to, interview in the same way as anyone else would. There was a time a couple of years ago when I used to hold out the hope that Conservative MPs may discover their conservatism and either leave the Conservative Party, which effectively has become so Liberal Democrat, it's hard to distinguish themselves from the Liberal Democrats and indeed the Labour Party. And I had hoped that there would be a body of Conservatives who would be prepared to leave the Conservative Party and set up their own Conservative Party, a genuinely small C Conservative Party. But I've given up on that. Every Conservative MP who sits in the Conservative Party is part of the problems that have been created for the United Kingdom. We sit on the precipice of economic disaster, social, cultural, political, and indeed constitutional disaster as a result of this Conservative government. Anyone sitting on the Conservative benches is part of that problem. And if they wish to join Reform UK, we would need to have a proper discussion with them about why it is they didn't leave the Conservative Party earlier, what their genuine beliefs are ideologically, and whether or not those beliefs sit with those of Reform UK.